Yep.
All right, so the recording has
let's
started.
get started.
All right.
So, welcome guys to the Game Art Club weekly session. We'll be talking about a few things. If you wanna. So first things first, Prop Jam. You guys know what Prop Jam is? Well, if you don't know what Prop Jam is, we'll tell you still. Um, so pretty much, Prop Jam is an event for 2 days that we're gonna create some cool assets, and you get to work with your friends. You get to do it by yourself if you want to as well, and you get to have fun while doing it. The idea is that you create a sophisticated piece based on a topic that is given, and hopefully it'll be good enough to show in your portfolio or anything like that. Um, but yeah, if you guys are interested in joining, do join. The link is posted in the announcements for the sign up Google Forms. But yeah, welcome, Rain. So here is our GAC talk. Today we'll be talking about why is it important to self-teach? Why? Well, so it's important to self-teach because there's a lot of competition that happens in the current world, and with competition becomes you got to get that competitive edge in that competition. So essentially learning new skills, get honing techniques that you've gained, or just trying to prove that you are essentially better than the others, or you just want to get better for yourself, you just want to feel good for yourself. You just want to be able to do better at what you're doing. For example, me, I want to get better at 3D modeling, or some of you guys may want to get better in drawing. So today we're going to be talking about how essentially you can uh prove your you can how you can essentially do that, I guess. Yeah. So our first thing we're going to be talking about is the learning techniques. And our first learning technique is essentially first thing you can do is the Pomodoro technique. It's a general technique that's used to help not only in art but in other things as well. Essentially what you would do at first is decide on a specific task that you think that you need to do. Set a timer for how long you want to do that task. It doesn't have to be 25 minutes. It can be according to however long you want. But you would work on it for X amount of minutes. And then until that time has finished, you'll then take like a 5-minute break. And then once that 5-minute break happens, you'll start it again. You'll start working on it for X amount of times again. And then you'll take a 15 to 30-minute break. The idea is that like whenever you're learning and whenever you're tackling a challenge, you're giving yourself some time to rest and have your brain process like that information that you gained, right? And that's specifically important for like whenever you study for a midterm or anything like that, right? So you want to make sure that those concepts and stuff that you've learned, that content is stuck in your brain. Next. So now specifically when it comes to art, there are there's some 5 simple steps that can, well, I wouldn't say simple actually. There's some 5 essential steps that allow you to improve your your work in general. And the first things first is like looking at references and seeing and breaking it down into many parts. It's called deconstruction, right? For modeling, maybe for like 3D modeling or stuff like that, you can do like look at the perspective, geometric shape, break it down into muscles, right? Or like if you're looking a little bit more towards like the drawing end of things, you can look at shape language and break it down to its geometric shape, the negative, positive space contrast, the detail contrast, etc. Like and this can also be paired with like a part of the Pomodoro technique where you would work for like these 25 minutes. You're breaking down those references that you've gathered and you're trying to just understand what's happening. The next step into practicing is to recall what you've just looked at. So you've now put a visual image in your head. You've seen what the reference is like. You've broken it down. Now you got to try your best to recreate it without looking at it, because you want to you want it to imprint it on your head of what you've learned. And then you want to see if you can just understand the key differences and be able to recreate it as best as you can. It's not always going to be 100% at first, and that's okay. Because it's always part of the learning process. The more you do it, the more you're going to be able to train your brain like the muscle that it can that technically is. After you recall it, you'd want to self-critique. Now you finished creating your you finished creating your art piece. That's and now you're trying to see what are the differences? What are the differences between the one that you've made and the reference that you've seen? Is it too big on certain edges? Is the proportions just not doesn't feel right? Um, is what figure out what you think you've gotten wrong and just try and remember what you've done. By now, you would have wanted to take in a break just because you just processed a bunch of information, right? Because as simple as these may seem, there could always be a lot of different things that you need to tackle on these for these major differences or whatever you've gotten wrong. And my favorite personally, sleep. Oh my god. Make sure you get some quality sleep. It's not sleep and quality sleep are very different, and many people don't know the difference. Quality sleep is sleep for both your I guess the way to put it, your soul and yourself. You need to actually feel well rested, and and the importance of this is that it allows your brain to process that information, help retain it, right? And just keep in your mind for the next time, right? All that juice that it was just being used to critique and to recall and to break down all those things that you've just done. You kind of want to just try your best and just keep it in your mind as you're sleeping. Now this one is probably this is the last step, but one of the most important steps. Um, the more you train your brain like it is and as a muscle, the more you're gonna remember it, the more you're gonna strengthen it, right? So essentially, what you want to do is repeat all the steps that I mentioned: deconstruction, recall, self-critique, and then some good rest. And you would want to tackle the same tasks again, just so that um or the same concept that you're trying to improve on, just so that you can get better over it throughout the weeks or months or however long you decide to put it upon yourself. And the more you practice it, the more you get better at it. And just make sure though that um you space it out properly in between. Next. And another important thing is even with with these steps and all these things, make sure you are being careful on what you take in. Don't just overwhelm yourself with so much information and trying new things. You got to work efficiently, not hardworking. You can't be a hard worker. You got to be smart worker. Yeah. Take it away.
Yeah, so with studying, obviously it's great for improving, but you really burn out quickly when you're doing a ton of studies. You could sit there and draw like Leonardo for, hours and hours and hours, and eventually you'll get just as good if you do it for, thousands and thousands of hours. But we're artists and we want to do things that are fun. So you need to find a good balance between doing fun personal pieces. Don't we all love Sam Desert? He's great. But you need to find a good balance between doing personal pieces and doing studies. That's another good way to healthily improve instead of sort of just like burning out. Because if you burn out, obviously you're going to stop improving or stop working. One good way to manage this is to have two pieces going at the same time. So you can be working on a study piece and then have a personal piece that you're working on at the same time. And when you get burnt out from working on one, move on to working on the other one. Have some fun, do some studying. Have some fun, do some studying. So that's a good way to balance it. Another part to self teaching on the internet and in the modern age is finding the right information. There's all kinds of sources online. You have, like your professors, you have sources like us, the Game Art Club. These are some recommendations that we have for channels and things uh, information related. So, one thing with especially game art tutorials is there are a lot of paid courses and there are a lot of unpaid courses. Since these are from my own personal example, they're both going to be 3D art, so I don't know if it translates the same to 2D art, but the first tutorial is a military radio modeling tutorial by Simon Fuchs. It's hard to pronounce his name, but it was $35 and it was taught by him who works at the time he was working at Blizzard as a lead environment artist, and he now works at Valve. He, I think, was an environment lead for Half-Life Alyx. So he's an industry professional. There's 22 hours full of content, and he introduced a lot of industry leading techniques and workflows in this tutorial video. So it's a really, really, really good tutorial. On the other side is a tutorial by a YouTuber called Flip Normals. It's a free tutorial taught by Henny and Morton, two freelancers in the game and film industry. There's about 30 minutes of content, and all the techniques are pretty beginner. Overall, neither of these tutorials is bad, but you'll find that when you pay for tutorials, you do tend to get more bang for your buck. And if you're especially going to be using them to study, oftentimes it is worth it if you want to get into the industry as a professional. Oftentimes it is worth it to pay for these tutorials now and learn from them. Especially on techniques. Most of the times you'll find that the free tutorials have beginner techniques, and then anything more advanced you'll have to pay for. Some channels that we'd recommend. This is a short one, but we'll take a screenshot of this and I'll put it up in the thing in case you want to check out any of these channels. These are just a bunch of channels that we like. Yan Sculpts is a great source for any kind of self-improvement, like as far as artistically goes, and he sculpts in Blender. Flip Normals does all kinds of 3D modeling stuff for film and games. Proco is a great 2D artist for anatomy and traditional art, and Mark Brunette is great for digital illustration. Those four that are bolded, I would highly, highly, highly recommend checking out. And the rest are good resources too. All right, the next step to improving, reaching out. Improving alone is fine and all, but improving with other people is going to speed it up tremendously because a lot of people out there are willing to help and they've already been through the process you're going through now. They know your struggles, they know your pitfalls, and they know how to get through it. Some great resources for 3D artists are Polycount and ZBrush Central. They're both forums. If you've never checked them out, you should definitely take a look. And for 2D art, opengameart.org. I don't really know of any other 2D art forums personally. You could do ArtStation and DeviantArt, but I don't think you'll find the same critique and feedback there as you would with OpenGameArt. Or Game Art Club. That's us. We do have all kinds of qualified individuals here, and they're definitely willing to share their experiences. So if you ever want critique and feedback and feel like you're stuck, then you can come to us. There's the art wall, there's the feedback line, there's the question and answers chat. So feel free to make good use of all of those to help with your improvement. Yeah, DeviantArt, it's got a reputation, but you can definitely still learn from it. All right, and we didn't add a thank you slide, so that's it. Thank you for listening. Hopefully, you
Yeah.
guys got something out of this. Uh, After that, we're gonna have some discussions. So, I mean, if you guys have experiences from your own learning and journeys, then please feel free to share them now because that's what we're here to talk about. Yak Talks trademark.
And even if you don't, well, be aware. You're probably gonna get some. You're gonna get a ride sooner or later when you're in this program. If you're in the game dev program, for the people that are in there. But yeah. So for one, for myself, in terms of one experience that I had, I hate UV unwrapping. Probably still do, but I mean, it's just one of the things that you gotta get done so that you can still create that amazing art piece. And so, at first, when I was originally learning how to model and all the steps towards modeling, I just kind of like didn't care. I just like selected random things. I was like, oh, okay, sure, that makes sense, sure. But then at the end of the day, like you make, I realized that like, oh, I just made it a lot harder for myself, and I'm ruining the actual pieces that of what it could have been. For example, one time I made a sword, and yeah, that didn't go well. Let's just say that I got like a 3,000 by like 3,000 texture I found online and slapped it um on the handle, and then I had like this 600 by 600 metal like thing texture, and I slapped it on the knife, the blade of it, and it was so pixelated. It was so bad. But then I just did that because I just didn't want to bother with it. But if you really do put the time and effort and try and figure out how you can improve on it, and I wouldn't say at the time that I knew exactly the steps of um what was shown today, but I did follow a good portion of it, and it definitely helped into what I can do now. So yeah.
I guess I'll hop in here then. So one thing that I really struggled with was design, and it's that last step that really kind of makes or breaks a lot, especially of design work. If you're ever struggling with ideas and you're afraid to share your work because it's not great, don't be. People expect it to be not great. That's why you're coming to get critique in the first place. If you're really not comfortable with going to things like forums, like for me, I just started with Gavin because he's always, willing to help. Uh, if you're not in the game dev program and you don't have a art professor, then find someone find someone that you can kind of grow close with. They don't have to be a professor or anything, but if they're good at art and you can build rapport with them and you're willing to share with them and not just everybody, then it really makes a difference.
Yeah, I can jump in on that. Like, it doesn't have to be a prof. Like for me, it was a TA that we had named Mike Chan, and we all love Mike. And yeah, it was easier to share stuff with him. I still shared stuff with Gavin, but for the most part, it was like TAs and stuff that I got a lot of feedback from. But it can be one of us, for example, if you're not comfortable talking to professors. So we're always down to help and grow your stuff. Just DM us and boom, you're good.
There's also other qualified individuals too that doesn't have to specifically be us that are on the server, like graduates or fourth years, other fourth years, or even maybe like someone that is in your year, for example, and they figured out things that you are trying to currently figure out, like uh there's definitely a community out there in GAC that you guys can reach out to. And of course, if you don't want to, there's also search engine. But yeah, um or whenever you do feel like you want to learn something and you feel like that you can't get enough information, there's always that session request that we have as well, that you could always pitch your ideas into what you would like to talk about or learn about. And yeah, we'll see what we could do from there too.
Oh yeah, Rain, you asked me a question. Honestly, out of all those channels, none of them really focuses on straight weapons. Like usually, like for flip normals, for example, they'll focus a lot on like individual tools and stuff that you use in like 3D modeling workflow. I think Blender Guru does a lot of hard surface stuff, so you could probably check him out. But for the most part, I don't know of a specific channel that actually focuses on weapons.
Well, it's not. I wasn't really looking for specifically weapons, but like some techniques that will help me like develop weapon modeling or just hard surface modeling in general. So like, I think I worded it badly. So
Oh yeah, then definitely Blender Guru or hold up, Marcus. You know the dude that runs tutorials on like hard ops and stuff? Hold up. I need to find him out. Or box cutter tutorial.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh yes, Josh Gambrel, this dude.
Blender Guru is Donut Man. Yeah. That's more for the fundamentals than anything.
Yeah, here, I'll post this guy's link. Even though he uses like an add-on in Blender, he's pretty solid with hard surface stuff. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of videos that he does that uses like add-ons called hard ops and box cutter, but there is like a lot of fundamental videos that help you with hard surface stuff. And honestly, if you just need a quick and dirty tip when you're doing your hard surface modeling, you can hit up me or Marcus.
Yep.
Because there's definitely some things that go over a lot of people's I wouldn't say heads, but like there's stuff that Gavin doesn't teach in like second year that I think should be pretty important if you're doing like hard surface stuff or like advanced hard surface stuff.
Yeah, if you're getting into like in-depth 3D modeling, feel free to hit me up at like literally any time of the day, 24/7, and I will get back to you probably right away.
Yeah, I think Marcus would be better to help with like crazy cool hard surface stuff. If you're doing a combination of organic and hard surface, then I can definitely help you out really easily.
Anybody got their own tips and tricks for their self-improvement journeys and how to improve?
Well, today's session was supposed to be a short one anyway, just to help people that are doing it midterms or doing a bunch of assignments. So I mean, um, feel free to leave if you'd like, to work on those things that you need to do, or you can stick around, if you wanna, I don't know, the company, or you have something to say, or just feel free to talk and chat as well.
Thanks for coming, guys.